I'm Jen Ritchie, and welcome to the 5th episode of Wildlife Conversations. I met today's guest first via his YouTube channel. It was 2018, and I had just left my first bear jam. I got in my van and immediately started Googling Blondie, Grand Teton National Park, and this very enthusiastic wildlife YouTuber came up in my search. From then on, I was obsessed with the bears and the Tetons and watched everything this guy put out. Then in 2020, the pandemic switched my family's plans from Rocky Mountain National Park to Jackson Hole. And what do you know? This guy offered workshops and happened to have a last-minute spot for me. Of course, that's my guest today, photographer Steve Mattheis. He is a native of Jackson, Wyoming, specializing in the diversity of the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem and winner of multiple awards, including you're gonna hate this, a highly honored image in the wildlife category this year for the Nature's Best Photography Awards and grand prize in the 2018 Audubon Photography Awards. With over 4.2 million views on his YouTube channel, most of us have had some sort of influence from Steve and love following his adventures. He has the perfect blend of technical and artistry, and I'm so grateful to have his help and coaching over the past 4 years. It has truly changed my life. You're going to hate that intro. But welcome, Steve, to Wildlife Conversations. Thank you for joining me.
That was some intro. I'm
trying
to figure out who that's about, because it can't be about me.
I knew you'd love that. I knew it. So do you remember like the first time we met?
Of course.
Of course. You got in the car and you said, do you remember?
No, I can't remember what happened at breakfast today.
No, you said, did you know we're both Boilermakers? Yeah.
That's right.
Went to Purdue.
Yep. And you're still there.
Yeah, and I'm still in town. Yeah, I'm not still going. I finished, but
yeah, nice.
And then I basically had a panic attack on that first workshop, but it worked out.
You did. I recall. Yeah, you were pretty nervous.
My camera wouldn't work. I was shooting a Canon 5D Mark IV at the time.
Yep.
Seems like a long time ago, but the shutter froze and like that wouldn't turn on. And you asked me, do you have an iPhone?
Hey, you got to do what you got to do out there.
So thankfully Dan ran back and we switched out batteries and it worked. But I had never spent money on myself like that. And like certainly had never done a photography workshop. So I was nervous.
Yeah. Well, I apologize for how much that has cost you since then, because the gear upgrades have come along and you're now fully stocked and ready for any occasion.
That's like, look behind me. Yeah. So the quote from Steve Mattheis always is, that's a problem that only money can solve.
That's right.
Every time I'd come to you and say, I can't get this shot, the light is too low. That's a problem.
Buy 400 2.8.
That's right. That's a
we
problem.
Can solve that problem.
Only money can solve.
Yep.
So I think one of the really foundational things that you helped me with in that first, so I did a workshop with you and then was trying to implement things at home and still needed help. So contacted you again and asked, do you do calls? Because I need help. And you did. And so I think then over that next year, after some calls with you, you really worked on like foundational stuff with me that stuck. I mean, sort of. I mean, now I get sort of loosey-goosey, I guess, a little bit. But like some of that stuck, like things to have set up before I get out of the car even. Like you were very methodical and I needed that. So if someone's beginning and they're doing a workshop with you and they're just starting, I mean, they know how to work their camera, but how do you set that foundation for them at first?
Well, it depends, but you are not alone in that, tons of my workshop participants show up and they're not ready to shoot. Yeah. And even like once I say, okay, let's get the camera out and get ready to shoot, and I kind of watch it and they get their camera out, but they're not ready to shoot, then the discussion begins. Okay, what exposure mode are you in? Okay, what white balance are you in? What focus mode are you in? What are you thinking for settings in this type of light? What do you think our subject's going to be? Are you prepared for that subject? And a surprising number of people aren't ready at all.
Yeah.
And for the style of photography that we're doing on the private workshops here in the Tetons, that style is very fluid. Where we're out there, you've been there, we run around, we don't know what we're going to be shooting minute to minute. We might have an idea of what we're after, but if say we're going to go, oh, we're on the moose workshop, we're going to go for moose, but we're driving along and a wolf pops out. Are you ready to shoot that gray wolf, or are you ready to shoot that dark moose? The light hasn't come up yet. Are you ready for that slow shutter speed that you're going to need, high ISO or whatever? So that style of photography in particular, and it's similar in Africa on a safari where we don't know what's going to happen next, and you just need to be prepared. There are times when if you're going to shoot eagles at Conowingo Dam, you know exactly what you're going to be doing. You can get out of the car, lounge up there, set up your tripod, take your time, get your settings all ready, lock them in, and stay there for most of the day, right?
Yeah.
Because you're shooting the same thing in the same light. And that's not what we're doing out here typically. So it's a little different mindset depending on what you're doing, but it's way easier to run through a checklist of all that stuff you need to have set up when you're in the car or packing up your car to get ready to go. Set all that stuff up before you've got the adrenaline of, oh my God, there's a bear right there. And then you try and fiddle with all that stuff, you're dead.
Yeah.
One, because you might miss the shot because of time, but two, you get the adrenaline going, the bear buzz. You can't think
I've
straight.
never had that. I don't know.
Yeah. I still get it all the time. It's great.
Yeah.
But if you haven't thought about that stuff and set it up ahead of time, you're at a massive disadvantage. So that's like a super fundamental basic thing that I try. And even, when I'm out with clients and the light changes, we're out driving around, the light changes, I'll mention like, hey, did you notice the light change? Do you need to make any adjustments to your setup right now?
Yeah.
And so kind of throughout the day, throughout the shoot, that's on my mind for sure. And I like to impress that on, clients as well, because just the more prepared you are, the more shots you're going to get. Because a lot of these moments happen, they're very fleeting.
Yeah.
And you have like, there's your subject, you're going to get 5 seconds, and then it's going to turn and run.
Yeah.
And that happens all the
I remember
time.
you saying, so what's your camera setup for? I'm like, I don't know. Like, and you're like, you have to have it set up in your car before you step foot in the woods. So like, before you step foot, what's your checklist? I remember ISO, aperture, shutter speed. And then you're like, what about white balance? I'm like, I don't know. What about white balance?
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about white balance, and I know you have YouTube videos on it too, but I think, seeing a lot of magenta owls and moose and bears on Instagram. You've talked about this before, but then white balance became something I thought about and would check in with you about, because I remember you saying, Jen, color is important. And then it was like, oh, color is important. So can you talk a little bit about white balance? And then we'll talk a little bit about color.
Yeah. Yeah. White balance is, this is one of those things that you can go down a big rabbit hole. Yeah. So if I oversimplify some of these concepts, don't attack me for, I understand what white balance is, but I'm going to try and simplify it because I could go on and on about it. And it's a really scientific discussion that is too deep for what we really need to know. But basically, it's the balance part is there to balance the colors in your images. Most people who are shooting in nature should never be an automatic white balance. The balance is there to balance out colors, balance out the changes that are happening with the light color, whether you're shooting indoors with fluorescents or halogens or LEDs, whether you're shooting, in a hockey rink or whatever, the color of that light is different everywhere you go. White balance is there to balance those colors out and neutralize things. Well, in nature, how often do we want neutralized colors? Like, we want the colors that are there most of the time. Of course, there are artistic things when you want to change the colors, that's great. It's a separate discussion. But in most nature stuff, like, we want that orange glow of a sunrise. If you're in automatic white balance, the automatic is trying to balance too much orange. And so then it's going to add a bunch of blue to counteract that. If you're shooting in a green forest, automatic wants to balance that green out, and it's going to add a bunch of magenta in.
Yeah.
And neutralize those colors. When we want the orange, we want the green of that forest. We want the blue of that blue hour in winter, where you get that cold blue feeling. So I would suggest no nature photographer ever shoot in automatic white balance. I personally tend to shoot in cloudy almost all the time. I think the reason I'm in that almost all the time, like, I could adjust that to shade when it's a little bit bluer, or go to daylight when it's more midday stuff. But I like to just kind of see my images in a consistent color throughout the morning, throughout the day.
Yeah.
And when I open up on Lightroom, my grid, I can see how the color's changing, because my camera's not changing colors. Whereas if I was in auto white balance, every shot I take, it's looking at that scene and it's changing the color of that scene.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
I want to see what the light is doing. It's going to help train my brain to recognize it both in the field and when I'm editing. If I'm looking at neutralized colors all the time, I start to think that's how it's supposed to look.
Yeah, I remember you saying that to me, because you said, I said something about, can you look over my images? This was a couple years ago. And you said, well, you've had some purple bears for a while. And I'm like, what? And I couldn't see them, but you were helping me, like, train my eye to see that magenta. And it just took me a little bit to be able to see it. But yeah, go ahead. I mean, I think you're right.
Well, no,
train your
that's
eye.
normal. If you're training yourself to see these images that have had color balanced out of them,
Right.
that's what you start to like. That's what your brain is seeing, and you start to think that that's okay, and it's not.
Yeah. Right.
So I want all the colors nature is giving me, and I personally like to see them consistent. So I know when I look at this image that was taken 10 minutes before this one, I can look at it and go, wow, look how much that light changed, or, the light changed in 5 minutes. That's incredible. Whereas if I'm in auto white balance, it's balancing out those colors and they're all neutralized and kind of like meh. So, I don't want the meh. I want to see what's actually there. I don't want the camera to be balancing out those colors. Now, the exception to that is when you're photographing people, skin tone.
Yeah.
Super important I'm not a people photographer. You are.
Yeah.
I take pictures of my kids and randomly stuff. I'll put it onto auto white balance for that, because the cameras are really, really good at getting skin tones. And that's one reason, like, some people choose Canon over Nikon or Fuji or whatever, because of the way they render skin tones.
Mm-hmm.
And auto white balance is a big part of that equation for shooting skin tone.
Yeah. Yeah. I use auto white balance for portrait, and then in nature do cloudier shade or daylight. Yeah. 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 But I mean, I still scroll and see so many people with purple things, and it's a shame, because it's a beautiful image, but it will be magenta, so if people would just switch that, and it just, I mean, I still do too. I still, or even when you put it on Instagram, and then it depends on if your monitor's calibrated and all that, but it is really important. And one of those things that I was really glad that I learned, because I want my images to be correct.
Yeah. And there are, I think Nikon for sure, they have attempted to kind of help us nature photographers out with
there's a question in the chat about that.
Okay. So they've got a newish automatic white balance setting that's like natural or something.
Yeah, Ryan asked that. What about auto white balance natural setting on a D850, for example?
Okay, so that's their attempt at doing a better job
Yeah.
on those natural type settings.
Yeah.
Uh, it's better, but it's still trying to balance out colors.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's still inconsistent because every shot you take, as you're moving with your subject and the background's changing, as the light is changing, as the sun's going behind the mountain, the camera's still changing that white balance setting for you every shot.
Yeah.
So you're losing the consistency of training yourself to recognize the
That's a good
different
point.
colors.
Yeah.
So it's a better version of what it used to be, but in my opinion, it's still something not to use. Just
Okay.
get a good consistent white balance, uh, and then you really are going to start to recognize when you see the subtle shift of colors in your images. Uh, it's going to make editing a whole lot better too, because when you're looking through 5 images as the light is changing, your
Yeah.
auto white balance is trying to neutralize those. Whereas when the light's changing, you get to see like, oh my God, that one, look at that weird little pink glow that happened in
Yeah.
that one
True.
that this
Okay.
one doesn't have. And it might be a tiny little subtle thing, but when you're training yourself and you're allowing the camera to show you those subtle differences, that can make the difference between which one of these 5 looks the best. Like bang, that's the one. Look at that cool
Yeah.
little subtle glow on it.
I don't know if you've ever explained it to me like that before, but that's great. Yeah, it's true. So we're trying to get it not to change every image, but we're trying to also train our eye. So we're trying
Yes.
to, yeah. So that's really interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So then when you get in post process, you can then you can start playing with it a little bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I assume everybody here will be shooting in RAW. If you're not, that's fine. You know, if you're a
Yeah.
JPEG shooter, then if you're a JPEG shooter, you do need to change that as you're going to achieve the look you want as a JPEG.
Yeah.
But when you've got it on RAW, you can adjust that white balance to whatever you want after the fact with zero loss in quality, no data is lost in doing that. Um, and that is something that I will change in post for sure. Like I'm not just stuck on cloudy and have a nice day, but
Yeah.
I have a consistent starting point for virtually every image.
Okay. Yes.
And that helps me in my editing to see all the images look exactly the same start. I can, fiddle with white balance depending on what the light's doing, what I want to achieve with the color of the image. But it's absolutely something that I will be changing
Yeah. Yeah.
in the
So
image.
I think these things we've been talking about are very like foundational. And I think when you're worried about learning all the technical, like it's really good to build that foundation and not worry. I mean, you can worry about the artistry too, but if you don't have that technical and like the muscle memory, I know you really emphasize muscle memory. That was a lesson for a few months. Like go out and just, you got to get muscle memory. You got to be moving those dials. And so all that foundational stuff gave me freedom then to work on the artistic part once I got some of the technical. I mean, everyone can always work on technical, but so can you say a word to people that are just beginning or even in the middle of their photography journey, like about how important that is to do the technical? Because did technical and artistry come for you right away, or did you have to learn first? I mean, you can probably see the growth of your photography, but
Yeah. So I'm a technical dude
yeah, yeah,
in I'm a mechanical engineer by education. I have a kind of a mechanical and technical knack, I
yeah,
guess, in a lot of ways. So for me, when learning photography, the technical part was the easier thing for me to learn. I pick up on that stuff just kind of naturally quicker.
yeah.
So for me, learning the artistic stuff took much more effort and much longer and more time to develop.
Okay.
Everybody's different in that
Yeah,
regard.
yeah,
And the I don't think that there's a better way, one way or the other.
right.
But the in order to achieve what you want artistically, uh, you may or may not need highly technical skills. So it really, the way I kind of would approach that, like if I was an artist first, like a lot of people are, and they say like, oh, you've got a good natural eye. Everybody talks
Mm-hmm.
about that. Oh, she's got a great eye. Oh, he's got
Mm-hmm.
a great eye. That's great. Um, when do you need to get the technical stuff?
Yeah.
You need to get the technical stuff when you're unable to achieve the artistry that you want to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, if you want to blur a background, like it is most simple thing in the vision that you have in your head, you're a beginner photographer and you go, man, this image would look so great if that background wasn't so cluttered and distracting,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a very simple concept. But as a beginner, how the heck do you do that? Well, you have to learn the technical skills to be able to achieve that. And that means getting a faster lens, using a bigger aperture. It could mean changing your position relative to the subject, get closer to it. Um, the closer you are to the subject, the more that background's going to disappear, that kind of thing. But you need to understand how to achieve what you want to do artistically. Um, that is like when you can't achieve something, you're an artist, and the vision that you have for that shot, you're unable to achieve it. You need to figure that out. And that's a technical problem that you need to solve. And there are answers to all kinds of crazy things, with you can do with your subject and the distance to the background. That's a technical
Yeah.
consideration of why is it not as blurry as I saw that picture that you made? Well,
Right.
bigger
Right.
aperture, my background was further away, my subject was closer. There's many ways to achieve all these different looks. But you have to understand that as the artist, if that's the look you want.
Yeah. I
If
mean,
if
I
you can
go ahead.
achieve what you want artistically
Yeah.
already,
Yeah.
go for it. You don't need
Yeah,
to
but you
learn
can't
anything.
stay still. You can't stay in one thing. You have to grow. So hopefully you want to achieve more, or keep
Oh,
growing and
yeah.
learning. Yeah,
I think most people, that's true. Yeah.
I hope so. But I think
Yeah.
one of the things you have taught me is like to problem solve like that. And I would just, I am the other brain. I'm the English teacher, stories, all that, reader, writer. Um, and so the engineering part was always like, huh? Let's do that
Yeah.
again. And so I always had a lot of questions like that. Like, why is that front black bear? Why is the mama bear in focus and the baby bears are all, out of focus? There's like all that kind of stuff, learning aperture and just learning the science behind it and the math behind it, which is still, I mean, I'm fine at math. I don't want to be a stereotype because I did fine in math, but it's just like how things work. That does not come fast to me. So it is
Yeah.
really a blend of the technical and the artistry. And I think you have that. You have such a like great hand on both of those. That's what I think is great about you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. The technical stuff was like, can I get a sharp photo?
Yeah, right.
You know, can I get the colors the way that I want them?
Yeah,
Uh, the the artistic stuff took years for me to kind of start to
yeah,
experiment with and play with more. For years I was just psyched to find a cool subject and
right.
get it in focus and
Yeah.
get it nice and sharp. Uh, and that was awesome. Like I love doing that. But then it becomes like, okay, this is easy now. Like,
Right.
what's next?
Right.
Like, oh, what about, I saw this image and it blew my mind. Why? Like what,
Yeah,
and
that's a
then I
good
got to
question.
figure
Yeah.
out what did he do technically
Or
to
she. Yeah.
achieve that?
Hmm.
Yeah, well, I was specifically thinking of a person as I
Okay.
said that.
Okay. Well,
But
that is, I want to ask you, and I think there's an audience question about that too, but I know you inspire a lot of us, but who inspires you? Like who are you thinking of when you say that?
I was specifically thinking of Vincent Munier.
Yeah.
he popped into my brain, and that
Yeah.
is, I think I've probably told you about him, so you know who he
Yeah.
is.
Yes, I do
He's a,
follow him, but he doesn't post very much. Yeah.
he doesn't, no, he's a Frenchman, and
Yes.
he, I met him here in the Tetons before I ever even heard of him.
Mm-hmm.
He was out shooting with Mangelson one day,
Mm-hmm.
and I bumped into Tom, and we were chatting, and he introduced me to this guy, um, who was super nice, but I could tell he was like knew what he was doing, and
Yeah.
he was a thing. And
Yes.
so when I got back home, I Googled him, and I went and I started, and like that's what popped into my head when you said, you know, when that kind of thing hits you, like, wow, how did he do that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I remember like looking through some of his images that first time I just Googled him, and I was like, whoa, he's doing stuff I hadn't seen yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Mm-hmm.
was pretty early in my photographic journey, but
Yeah.
he kind of blew my mind. And like this guy, he does amazing stuff. Um, I don't even know where to start, but like this is his latest book, and he just, he does all kinds of rad stuff, just
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
super simple, clean, but it can just go
That is
on
cool.
and on.
Yes.
And I mean, look at that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
just fantastic. And
Mm-hmm.
so I start thinking like, wow, how does he do that? What's he doing with his camera?
Yeah.
How's he positioning himself? How's
Yeah.
he getting himself to those locations? Like, whoa, look at this stuff. And it just
Yeah.
goes on and on. And he's just incredible. Like, look at this thing. It's so sharp.
Describe it for people who won't be able to see it.
Oh, well, it's hard to describe it. It's just a big whiteout scene with just a little strip of barren rock across the bottom, and then a hazy snow-covered mountain in the background. And there's the subject.
What is it? I can't even see from the screen. What is it?
It's a polar bear,
Oh, very cool. That's
right?
super cool. Yeah. So that
But
is
like,
definitely inspiration.
yeah, this
Very
is
cool.
this is like one of the original guys that I just was like, what? Look at what he's able to achieve with a camera.
I know, but I see that stuff and I guess I don't ask enough questions. I think I just go, that is so beautiful. And then I just
Yeah.
move on. I mean, not every time, but I need to sit in it and ask the same questions. Why is it good? How they position themselves? Where were they standing? What were they thinking? How did they edit? I just I don't give myself enough time to do that. I should.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, for me, that's a huge part of my process is looking like I've got a handful of books here. Like Vincent Munier, he's my kind of my original guy that just kind of blew my mind.
Yeah.
Uh, I've got a couple like this one just showed up.
Yeah. I have that
David
one too.
Duchemin's new
Yeah.
book,
Yeah.
great book, beautiful.
And
So
who is
David
that? You can
Duchemin,
say who that is. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
what?
Who is it? Who's the
David Duchemin?
photographer?
Who's the photographer?
I couldn't hear who you said was the book.
Oh, David Duchemin.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I kept interrupting you.
Oh, sorry. That's all right. But anyway, I bumped into him very early in my photographic journey, and he wasn't a nature photographer at that time.
Right,
He was like
right,
a humanitarian and travel photographer.
right.
Uh, and I wanted to learn from him because I liked his images and his vision and his writing and his ability to communicate to me what he was thinking when he was making these images. He has since kind of shifted and is doing a lot of nature and wildlife
Yes, he
now.
is. Yes.
And it's beautiful stuff, like he's doing some underwater stuff with a shark there.
I'm
Um,
going to put the name in the chat. It's David Duchemin and Mounier was
yeah,
the other one.
yeah, Vincent Munier.
Um,
But anyway, these like I'm just rifling through. I love photography books.
yeah.
I'm kind of genre indifferent. Like this is another person that I think is just awesome. Elliot Erwitt
Okay.
might have just died. Don't quote me on that. I
Okay.
hope he did.
Okay.
But anyway, uh he's like a old school street photographer,
Yes. Yes.
and he's awesome. He does amazing, like quirky, kind of candid stuff, like we're
Yes.
doing candid stuff out there
Yeah.
with wildlife, but
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
like he finds stuff like that,
Yeah.
you know. Like that's the kind of moment, like picture that in nature scene with a moose
Right.
sticking its tongue out.
Right. That's a good
You
point.
know,
So taking
like
inspiration from even street photography
that's
or
right.
photography. Yeah. Different
Yeah.
kinds of
Yeah.
photography.
Like look at that's about the moment and the gesture of that.
Right. Right.
The environment's there to show the other soldiers marching.
Yeah.
Uh, and that could be the herd of elk with one elk doing something goofy and then click, there's your moment. So I can take
Yep.
inspiration from his work and looking through these books. Like it's just find somebody that you resonate with. Like I find
Right.
this guy, I think he's got like a beautiful, quirky, kind of fun, playful sense um, that I really resonate with. So
Yeah.
I can just spend hours and hours looking at this. He's just great.
Well, Julia Cameron, I think both of us have read her book, The Artist's Way. She talks about going on an artist date, like for an hour, just doing an hour where you go for fun and do something to inspire you as an artist. So even looking through those books as a treat to yourself in a busy schedule, that's like an artist date. You're just doing that to get
Mhm.
inspired and like to feed yourself instead of always giving the other way.
Yeah, I mean, like here's a book I bought recently that has
Oh my goodness.
The
The
Art
Art
of
of
Suffering,
Suffering. Yeah.
capturing the brutal beauty of road cycling. And
Oh my goodness.
I like watching the Tour de France.
Yeah.
So I understand cycling but this is a professional photographer that's just photographed the Tour de France for decades.
Yeah.
And to look through the images that he captures of these people, like it's just incredible the suffering, like the crash scenes and the
Mm-hmm.
guys
Mm-hmm.
and the moments that he's finding within these races and just looking for the character in their
Mm-hmm.
faces when they
Yeah. Yeah.
come, they're all sweaty and covered in dirt when
So
they're
who is
doing
that photographer again, Steve?
this one is, gosh, Kramon. Pronounce
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Kramen?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So you take that inspiration and then how do you take it to the field with you? Are you visualizing two questions? Are you visualizing images before you get out there? And then I know this is another thing that you've taught me, and then sketching images when you get out in the field. So before you're out in the field, you're visualizing, probably. That's what I want to hear about. And then the second thing is how you sketch an image once you get out there. I think many of us have seen that. If you've watched Steve, I'm thinking of particularly a couple years ago, you did a video out and there was a moose out in the trees. So you walked further out and found two more out there, and you really had to go around that scene. And snow was starting. You were watching the weather, and you really had to sketch that scene until you found the right position of the moose. So that's kind of what I want you to talk about a little bit, is the visualization and the sketching, which I think is so important.
Yeah, it is. And the visualization part is, I'd say it's happening for me as the scene is happening.
Okay.
So there might be times where if I typically don't work this way, I typically don't try and pre-visualize a shot and then go out and get it because that's not the way wildlife tends to work. And
Yeah,
especially
it's true.
around here, if I know there's a fox den, for instance, and I know it's going to be there for the next 2 weeks,
Mhm.
my approach might change because I might actually be thinking of, okay, I know exactly what the scene is. I know what my subjects are. And then I maybe come up with a particular shot that I want out of that scene
Yeah.
that I would go chase that exact shot. But for the most part, I'm going out maybe with the idea of, like, for instance, right now in the Tetons, it's moose season.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I literally might go out and go, oh, it would be awesome today to get a picture of one of our big bull moose with the Tetons right behind him,
Yeah.
right? Like they're covered in snow right now. There's a fog bank this morning. It'll be perfect time to go look for that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. But that's the extent of that visualization
Okay.
for me because I know when I get up there, it's probably going to be totally different than that.
Right, right, right,
right? The moose might be in the wrong position to where I can't get him with the grand. I just like, I'm not just going to go home now. Like, oh, bummer.
right,
What I visualized isn't going to happen, so I'm out of here.
right.
So I tend not to spend a lot of time doing that.
Because it puts you in a box almost.
Yeah, but as you alluded to, the sketching part of it to me is more important of, okay, I get up there. Oh, I was hoping for moose with the grand behind them, but that's not going to work today because of where they are or what's going on. Maybe the fog bank moved in and I can't see the Tetons. What now? Well,
Right,
if I'm stuck to what I was visualizing, it's over. So at that point, then I've got to try and figure out the scene and then put the subject in the scene, and then work on how to optimize what I want out of that scene. So my visualization is starting from, okay, now I see what I've got to work with. Now that I'm on scene, I can see what's going on. I can see what my subject hopefully is. Now, what am I visualizing out of this scene?
yeah,
And at that point, I might go, oh, look, there's one last tree over there that has fall colors on it. How can I use that in my photo? And then I might start working it around a little bit, take a couple images, look at them. Now that's not quite what I had in mind. What do I need to do here? I might need to move, get higher, get lower, get closer, get further back, whatever it may be. At that point, once I know what I'm after, I have just in a split second visualized like, oh, yeah, I want to put that tree in the scene, but do I want to put it directly behind the moose? Maybe. Let's try it. Click, click,
yeah, yeah,
click.
yeah,
Okay, I've got that. Now, what if I put the moose on the left side of the frame and the tree on the right side of the frame? That gives me like two kind of things. Are they going to balance each other out, or are they going to like detract from each other here? Go sketch that out, right? Go
yep.
take that photo, move,
So
take
you're
it,
moving your feet.
look at it, see what's happening. So absolutely, I'm out there like moving all the time, trying to think. I'm constantly thinking, what next? Like I made that shot.
Mhm.
What else it could be better here? What else could I try? This might be worse, but I'm going to try it. What is it going
Yeah,
to look like? Because I surprise myself all the time with stuff that I wouldn't think would work. And I take the picture anyway. And then I get home and, I'm on a screen this big now and it works versus
right,
a screen this
right.
big. So I'm not like out there knowing exactly what I'm going to do. Like, oh, I see the shot. I'm going to go get it. Click. Sweet. I'm done.
Right.
I want to keep trying
Yeah. There's a
different
lot of patience in
possibilities.
that. There's a lot of patience in that and moving your feet and like sometimes I'll just get stuck in one spot, maybe because I'm waiting for the animal to move or because maybe people are on either side of me. But yeah, it's important to have patience and keep moving those feet and keep watching the backgrounds. And I I guess
Yeah. And it
I guess with
happens.
wildlife, it just sometimes gets like it's so fast that I guess you're building on that experience though. You're building on the experience of sketching so that when you are out there, it's coming quicker. Those questions that you were just saying in your brain, like they're coming faster, right?
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. There are times when things happen so quickly, you don't have time to experiment and play and move
Mm-hmm.
around.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where all the time you spent moving
Right.
around, playing and experimenting when you had time,
Yeah.
all that's in there and it's moving around in there. And then suddenly you have 5 seconds to make a shot. If you've been training yourself properly out there and doing those kind of things as an exercise, as practice, your brain is going to do a pretty good job. It's not always going to give you the perfect thing, but
Yeah.
it's going to do a hell of a lot better job of getting that right. If you've been working on it before and you only have
Yeah.
5 seconds, you go, okay, I've got 5 seconds. What can I do with this scene?
Yeah.
Boom. And then it's over. Then the animal goes away or whatever. But if you're not practiced at doing that, if you haven't trained your brain to be looking for that,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you're you're not going to do it in a split second.
Right, right. I felt that in Alaska. I'd never been there, never done the coastal bears. And then I'm laying there in sand on the coast thinking, this doesn't feel that new, because you put in the work, you put in the groundwork to when you are in a new situation, that it just transitions into that.
Yeah.
Not the first time I felt confident, I don't think, but it was like nice to have that feeling, like, oh, I can feel the work paid off because the questions are going through my head. I'm thinking about light. I'm thinking about gesture. I'm thinking about background and moving my feet. And like, it just starts to be second nature, which is what you want. Right.
Yeah,
So,
it's true. Yeah. And that's awesome. When you get to that place, it's really cool because you can actually get those photos where you only have a couple of seconds to make it and you make better decisions to maximize those opportunities
yeah.
when they happen. And that's kind of all we can really hope for is to maximize the opportunities that we're given.
Right. Right.
Because we can't really control the opportunities. I mean,
So
you
true.
can and you can't, but
Right.
uh, the nature's going to give us the opportunity, and what we do with it is what's important.
Right. Talk a little bit. People want to hear about your editing style. And I know that's really hard to explain because it's your style. But maybe if you talk a little bit about color and gesture, and then we can maybe talk about something else. But color, I feel like color and contrast are really big in your work. Like there are times when you really lower that contrast and take out some clarity. And I'm like, I never would be able to do that. Sometimes I do, but you definitely have a style where you can really make things just so beautiful and non-contrasty. I don't know how to explain it. That one pronghorn image I love of yours, I bought it because I
Yeah.
just loved it for years. But you also had that nice hazy background, but it's like you just could take that bright textury contrast out and it just looks so good.
Yeah. Editing is, as you said, it's super personal.
Yeah.
It's hard to kind of coach somebody on editing other than the technical stuff. How
Right.
do I achieve such and such look?
Right. Which takes
But
practice too.
yeah, but I think the big important thing is figuring out what you want the image to feel like.
Yeah.
Uh, and once you know what you want it to feel like, that can give you some direction and some ideas on how to go about achieving that. But that's the big question of I think you just have to look at a lot of images, work on a lot of images. Uh, One, to know what you can do, what is
Right.
possible. These days, anything is possible in editing. You can add stuff, you can take it away, you can just AI generate stuff now
Yeah.
if you want.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's not my style, like, but you can do anything you want now with editing, literally anything you want.
Yeah.
But so that's almost too much. Like we kind of need some constraints, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Constraints can actually be a huge boon to creativity.
Yeah. True.
You got to focus down to something because just too much is impossible to work with. But um, yeah, I tend to uh, I tend to want my images to be simple and clean.
Yeah.
Of course, there are exceptions to that, but in a very general rule, I like cleaner simplification. So that is generally where I'm going with my editing. Like how do I want to edit this image? How can I simplify?
Well, that's
I
how
might
you're
need,
going in the field first.
absolutely, they have to
Right.
work hand in hand.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to achieve that in the field the best I can. And then there are times when that's not true. There are times when I'm going for chaos and clutter in the field. And then I want to emphasize that through editing as well. But in general, I'm going for simplification, and I might need to crop out this other animal that's in the frame. I might leave it in there, but I might like select the background and darken that a little bit
Right.
to
Right.
make that thing that's back there, say the female elk. I've got a big bull elk bugling. He's the star of the show. I
Right.
want to keep it simple, but I'd say I do like having a cow in there to give it a little more context.
Yeah.
I will do my editing will be done to emphasize him and to diminish the stuff that maybe is a supporting role or that I don't want to see at all.
Right, right,
And I think it's such a personal thing. That might not be what you want to achieve. You
right.
might look at that same scene and go, boy, I think that cow in the frame is just as important as the bull.
Yeah,
But because she's further back, she's kind of diminished already. So what can I do to pull her out more?
right.
And you might, select her and brighten her up a little bit
Yeah,
so that now you've got the two animals that are equally important in the frame.
right. Well, it's also
But
they may have felt something different in the field that you did,
absolutely.
they
Yeah.
may have a totally different perspective.
Yeah. In
Yeah.
fact, that is a reminder here. What?
Nothing, nothing. Read to us, Steve.
No, so this is a book everybody should read if you're creative at all in life. This is Rick Rubin, The Creative Act, A Way of Being. Amazing, fantastic book. It's little bite-sized chunks that you can read in like 2 minutes. It's not like a whole book, but you can just read little chunks of it. It's fantastic. Highly
Yeah.
recommend it.
Yeah.
But I've marked a couple of quotes on here to remind myself on occasion. And
Yeah.
here's one. No matter what tools you use to create, the true instrument is you. And through you, the universe that surrounds us all comes into focus. And you just said it. You might have a different idea of what you want that photo to be. You're seeing that scene differently than I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's about you.
Right.
It's not about the scene. It's not about the camera. It's how do you see this? How do
Yeah.
you want this to be in your image?
Right.
And so that's why it's kind of hard for me to give editing. Like I can teach you some technical skills on editing, but most of my editing advice is going to be uh, asking questions, probing, what do you want this image to feel like?
Mm-hmm.
What's your subject?
Mm-hmm.
What's distracting? What do
Mm-hmm.
you want to minimize? What do you want to make more prominent? And so those are the things you want to think about in your editing and
Yeah.
also in the field too. They kind of have to work together.
Yeah. That's really good. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast is because I want to hear more voices and how people see it and what people are doing out in the field, whether they have a small account or a big account. There's just so many interesting perspectives and we can learn from each other. I know there's been a lot happening in wildlife the last couple of weeks. So I'll first ask, where does gratitude come in? And joy we'll talk about joy later, but gratitude and mindset, where does that come into play? And then if you'd like to comment or even share a little bit about 399, you can. That might be tough. Or maybe a good memory. But those two questions seem to go well together as we're out a couple weeks from this.
Yeah, so 399 yeah, I'm not a particularly eloquent conveyor of my own thoughts.
Of your own emotions. That's fine.
That too, that too.
You can just tell a great story or what she met to the park or whatever.
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
nothing.
honestly, like I read what Mangelson wrote about her.
Yeah.
Obviously, she was his muse, more than anything else. And he's a guy that has done it all in wildlife photography. He's a legend, and she was his muse.
Yes, yes.
And he is he was able to express through what he said and wrote about her far more eloquently than I could ever even attempt to. So hopefully people can go read what he has written about her. He had a much deeper relationship with her than I think all of us, honestly, but she meant a lot to a lot of us. And I've known her for 15 years. I've I probably shouldn't say this, but I've accidentally been this close to her before.
In your car, out of the car.
Backcountry, but it was an accident. That's a story for another time. And it was totally cool. She did not.
She was like, "Oh, hey, Steve, what's up?"
Well, I don't know, but she literally just walked past me as I was standing still and didn't even acknowledge that I was there. She didn't even lift her nose to sniff me, um, but that's kind of a thing that you don't get to experience, as nobody probably should experience that, but to have a bear that will accept you like that, and it really accepted humanity more than any other bear. It was really special. Um, but anyway, I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, but
Um,
her legacy is going to be so great for the park. She's and for other bears, I hope. We
yeah,
have a lot more bears, to see and photograph, and hopefully, they will bring attention to why they need to be protected. And
yeah, yeah. It's a big bummer. Now, I will say something about her. It was tragic the way she died. Of course, she got hit by a car. She was way out of position.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
There's controversy about the carcass that should
mm-hmm.
have been
Yeah,
moved or should not have been moved, et
I
cetera, et
saw that
cetera.
this morning. Yeah,
Um, I think I think it's terrible, and I'm not minimizing what happened to her, but I think there's a bit of a blessing in the fact that we get to know how she died and when she died.
that's true.
Because I think the potential for us never knowing how she died, where she died, when she died was extremely high. Because uh, you know, she could have been killed in the backcountry by another bear. She could have been killed in the backcountry by a poacher. She could
Mm-hmm.
have just died in her den. Uh, who knows? There's a million ways for a bear to die. She could have just, who knows, fell off a cliff. Uh, and I don't think if any of those happened and nobody really knew, like say she went to den and nobody ever saw her again this year, we'd all be standing around in April going, "Ooh, when's she going to come? Oh,
Yeah,
next week.
yeah.
Oh, the
Yeah,
next week." And
next
then
week,
it's
next week.
May. When's she going to come? Oh,
Oh,
next week. Well, then it's
yeah,
June. Well, maybe she just decided to stay in the backcountry this year. There'd be no closure. There'd be no specific time to celebrate
true.
her.
That's true.
And so it's tragic. I hate that it happened. I hate how it happened. Uh, but I also appreciate that because of the way it happened, we get a specific time and place and reason to celebrate her. And I
Yeah.
don't think like all the headlines that are out there that are like kind of giving voice nationwide, even worldwide headlines about the famous 399 and how amazing she was.
Mm-hmm.
Those stories wouldn't have been relevant if it was like, well, we think she died sometime over the winter. Oh, she probably died last year, but nobody really knows.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think it gave us a really neat opportunity to celebrate her in a bigger, more specific, targeted way.
That's true. That's a good way to
Uh,
look at it.
I'm glad we had that opportunity. It sucks that she's gone.
Yeah.
Uh, we're all very sad, but
Yeah.
she was an incredible bear.
Yeah. She, like you said, she was magic. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I feel like you see in my process of gratitude, like many times, I get down about photography or upset, and then you'll be like, turn it around. But I mean, sometimes we create in those places, that's fine. But how important is mindset when it comes to wildlife photography and getting out there? And I mean, it seems like you would have something to say about that from what you've taught me.
Well, I can mindset is absolutely important. What that mindset should be is different for every
Right,
person and every
right.
artist and what you want to achieve. So, you mentioned gratitude and joy. My particular mindset where I'm doing my best work is when I'm out there uh, and enjoying myself,
Mm-hmm,
enjoying nature, uh, photographing something that I'm grateful to be able to be a part of.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, as you as you mentioned, not everybody works that way and works the way they want.
Yeah,
But I think your mindset needs to match what you want to create out there.
that's true. Yeah.
If you want some like dark, haunting images, guess what? And those can be
You'd
amazing.
think all my images would be dark and haunting. I'm just kidding.
But
I
yeah,
switch
I
it
mean,
around. I can switch it around pretty quick.
yeah, I talk about that in my videos, and that was one thing that
That's
you
true.
had a really hard time with was my kind of hope for the day is I want to make one nice photo out
That's
there.
right.
And that gives me a starting point. Of course, I'm psyched when I have a really good session and I make 10 really awesome images, or I find three cool subjects today and make good images of all of them. Those are great. But I just want to keep myself in check. So I get panicky and like, especially on when the conditions are really good and I know there's a potential for something
Yes.
incredible. I,
Yes.
I get like panicky out there, like, oh my God, I got to really take advantage of this because these
Yes.
conditions are perfect. And oh God, I just really need to make this image. Well, guess what happens when you try and force it?
Right.
It
Right.
generally isn't going to work very well. So one of the ways I kind of detune myself is like, look, man, I just got to make one image. Slow down and look for that one image. That's all you need, and you'll
Yeah.
be psyched. And that's the truth. Like to come away with one great image in a day,
Yeah.
freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And it's not easy,
Right.
but it detunes me and my mindset down a couple of notches to like, okay, calm down. You only have to look for one image. You really need like you've been driving around for 4 hours and you
That's the
haven't taken
thing.
a single image yet. Like I go, well, all I need is 1/640th of a second and I'm
That's right. I
good.
think mine is because I'm flying on a plane to get out to my favorite place, and I feel that clock ticking as soon as I get there, which this last time I really tried to change that. And I think I was much better. So that's another thing is like problem solving. Okay, this is a problem. I have to work on it. I'm gonna have to change it. How do I change it? And then work on ways to change it. And that's how I feel like I've changed in the last 4 years is like you've kind of taught me the technical and how to change problem solve, but also when it comes to the mental and emotional, like you got to problem solve it, then take the steps to problem solve and fix it. You can't keep living the same way over and over. You got to fix it. And I remember just even like little things with you, I would be complaining like, no, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. Let's move on. No, we're going to fix it now. Like, how would we fix it? Okay, we're fixing it. But I think even with your one of your most recent shots that you got with the great gray in front of the grand, like we all saw that gratitude and thanking the animal, and that is a good example of how we should be out there looking for the beauty, being thankful for the beauty, and then thanking the animal. And if that shot comes, celebrating. That was
Yeah.
a once. That shot doesn't happen very often. So
No, no.
that was a good
Yeah,
one.
and I think that's a great way to live life. Like I
Yeah,
certainly try to live that way. It's hard.
it's hard. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the more you can practice that too, of just like, man, I'm out in the field and the elk are bugling. It's
Yeah.
like this crisp fall morning. It's gorgeous. I can hear them in the trees. I'm
Yeah.
not photographing them. So
Right.
you can look
Right.
at that two ways like, damn it, this sucks. I can't get to them. They're right there. And then, and you could go like charge into the woods after them. Like, they're right there. I'm
Right.
going to go get them. And guess what happens?
Right. They run.
Nothing.
Right. Which I did see this fall when I was out there, people acting like that. It was
All
bad.
the time. But
Yeah.
or you could sit there and go like, isn't this incredible? Like, look at this beautiful morning.
Exactly.
I'm in
Exactly.
the Tetons. It's fall. I have the time and the money to be able to afford to come out to the Tetons and have
Right.
this amazing gear and be able to sit here and listen to this and watch this stuff. And then guess what? You appreciated that for 15 minutes and here comes the bull,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like, okay, instead of chasing after that bull because I'm impatient and I'm mad because he's hiding in the trees, I'm
Yeah.
going to sit here and enjoy it, be grateful for what I'm able to do, and then
Yeah.
eventually it's going to come to you.
And like you said, that shows in your images. Yeah. The
I
joy
hope
and
so.
the gratitude. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. So we are at an hour already.
All right.
Yeah, I know. We've covered a lot of ground. So we haven't talked gear at all. We can just touch on it briefly. We've talked a little bit, but you've been a Nikon shooter most of the time. You picked up like a camera before your kids were born, right?
Yeah. And the first DSLR, I've been like a running around with a point and shoot little
Right, right.
Sony Elf and stuff, but the first DSLR I bought was a Nikon. I've shot Nikon ever since. I've also shot some Fuji for a while. I
Mhm.
love their GFX medium format. I
Mhm.
love shooting my kids with the XT series. I don't have any Fuji gear anymore. I shot Sony when the A1 first came out, and it was ridiculously better than everything else on the market.
And Canon
Um,
for a week.
well, so the Canon R5 kind of was a big game changer. We talked about muscle memory earlier, and I tested the Canon system for a week, and I just the muscle memory of the way the lens zoom and the way the dials are set up
Right.
were my muscle memory was already just super
Yeah.
set in my ways, and I didn't want to commit to a full muscle memory change
Right.
and the
Right.
kind of the time it would take to do that. So that's why I went not Canon. Sony, I could set it up to be very similar to my Nikon. The
Right.
dials were in similar locations. They zoom the same way. So I used that until the Z9 came out, and it was obvious that Nikon was going to do an amazing job with their mirrorless stuff as well. So at that point, I got rid of the Sony. So now I'm just strict Nikon Z system. Uh, that said, if you can't make amazing images with Nikon, Sony, Canon, Olympus, Fuji, it's your fault. They're
Yeah.
all incredible. Some
Okay.
have slightly better autofocus, some have slightly better ISO performance,
Yeah.
some they have different ergonomics, but they are all incredible. If you're trying to change systems to get some little tiny advantage over the system you're currently at,
Hmm.
uh, you damn well better know exactly that you need that tiny advantage, because otherwise it's a really big waste. Like they're all so good, so competitive right now. It's just shocking how good they all are. So I'm Nikon. I prefer the ergonomics. I'm used to it. Their
Yeah.
telephoto lens lineup right now is unbelievably good.
Yeah.
So for wildlife photographers, that's very appealing. The built-in teleconverters right now on their 400 and their 600 are total game changers.
Whatever. Whatever.
Well, I'm not trying to sell the Nikon system, but I'm telling you where my mind is
Yes.
with those
I know.
little advantages matter to me right now.
And
And so
I'm a Canon shooter, so everyone. So Steve and
yeah,
I like to trash talk a little bit about it. And
just a little.
most of the time you're right. So
Not really. I mean, it
I
really is.
I
We're
appreciate
so
what you're saying.
spoiled right
Right, we
now
are. Yeah,
that they're all incredible.
yeah. So what year was that you got the first DSLR?
15-ish years ago.
Okay. I don't know
Yeah.
what that is. Someone
Yeah,
just
I don't know.
okay, so 15 years.
2009,
Okay, so
something
it
like
took
that.
you 9 years to get the grand prize in the Audubon Awards. Wow. That's
Wow,
pretty cool.
that's interesting. I
I've
never
got
thought
3 more years to go.
you're
2 more years
there.
to go.
Yep.
It's gonna be a while. So
Are you going to do the speed round?
yes, I am, but if you have questions, we have some audience questions. Is that
Oh,
okay?
yeah, let's do it.
All right, we do have some
As long
audience
as,
questions. And if you
is there
have
anybody
questions,
left or are they all
there's
bored?
some people, other people here still. Yes, absolutely.
You guys are
You can,
hardcore. I
are you,
love
is
it.
everyone like, are you enjoying this? You can say in the chat. And if you have a question, you can put it in the chat or you can put it in the Q&A box. I see we have some there. And then I had some that were submitted early. Some things we've already covered. So I'm sorry if I skip your question, but hopefully you got an idea. But so my daughter Elena, they know who Steve Mattheis is for sure. Every time when we were first started watching you, I would be screaming through the house, "There's a new Steve Mattheis!" And like everyone would come to the couch, not everyone, but the kids that are, that like wildlife would come to the couch and we'd watch it. We don't do that anymore.
Oh,
No, I'm just kidding. There's no one here anymore hardly.
they've gotten old.
But,
Yeah.
but my daughter Elena asked, "What is the most rewarding shot you've taken?" I know that's probably a lot, but
Ooh. So rewarding, mm, I'm not sure how to define rewarding, but an image that popped into my head. I'm not sure rewarding is the right one, but I'm going to pick an image that I I visualized an image when I started working on my Great Gray Owl book.
Do you have it here with you? Do you have it? Okay. I know
Available
I have
now
it.
at
Mine's to my left.
stevemattheis.com.
Mine's to my left too far from my reach.
When I was working on this book, I really wanted, as part of the natural history of the book, a photo of great gray owls copulating. When they mate, like I'd never even seen it before, but I was like, man, it'd be kind of weird to put out a book on great gray owls without having a picture of them mating. So I embarked on a springtime mission. Like, I'm going to drop everything else. Nothing matters. I'm going to skip the bears. I'm going to skip everything. And I'm just going to focus on getting a shot of great gray owls copulating. And so I kept going every morning, every evening for a couple hours. I'd be out there. I found a pair of great gray owls that were clearly courting and setting up a territory. And I was like, okay, I've got a good scenario. Now I need to be there for when it happens.
Yeah.
And so I was 2 or 3 weeks into every day and every night going out there, following them around. I knew what was going on, and I needed this for the book. Oh God, I really want this for the book. So I worked hard for this image, but it did make it into the book. So there's kind of the sequence of the male flying in, landing on the female, and then when I finally got that shot, it was not only was it a photo of great gray owls copulating, but it was perfect background, perfect light, perfect perch. They were facing straight into the camera.
She's looking right at you.
Like, I couldn't, when I visualized this, like, ooh, I need a picture of great gray owls copulating. In my wildest dreams, it wouldn't have been this good. So super fortunate. I worked hard for that image, and I got
you don't
super
just drive
lucky
into the park. You have an hour drive to get to the park.
Yeah, and then I got to go hike in after them.
Right. I don't know if people understand that about the park. It takes a while to get there, and then once you're in the park, it takes a while to get to places. So that's a lot of time.
Yeah, so that image just pops into my head as like, that was one that I really wanted, and that everything worked out as well as it could have on it. So
someone also asked, Trish Hennessy asked, do you have workshops for editing? And can you tell her about that? And we talked briefly that maybe we might do one of these where you have a little editing course, but do you have an editing course out yet?
I do not.
Okay.
I offer at certain times of the year one-on-one Zoom, and I do have people that want to talk about editing on those. So I can certainly do that anytime. You can go on my website there. If Jen brought this up, if people would be interested in a kind of a session like this with Jen and I, where we talk about images and go through and actually edit some, that is something we would consider doing as well.
Yeah, if you're interested in that, say yes in the chat. If you would be interested in an hour and a half webinar about editing from Steve, just let us know. There's a yes coming already. So I think people, that was when I did the poll on Instagram. A lot of people want you to talk about, here come a lot of yeses. So they want to hear how to edit, which I think is beneficial.
And I can show you exactly, the techniques. And honestly, I keep things a lot simpler than a lot of people. I'd rather be out in the field.
That's right.
I have a super busy, I've got 2 teenagers at home and a wife and a dog, and
it's a lot.
I've got a lot going on. So I want to spend as little time as possible at the computer editing. I want to get it the way I want it to look, but I'm not utilizing these crazy, amazing techniques that a lot of people are using that you see on YouTube.
But your work is beautiful, so something's working. And I know that I have overworked an image before and gotten frustrated and asked you for help, and you just say, let's reset the whole thing. Let's start over.
Simplify.
And I think another thing that we've done before is, like you've said, let's do a copy, and let's do 2, or let's do 3 and play and see what happens. So that really good tip for me too. It was like, okay, try it somewhere else, try it again, make a copy, try it again, play around with it and see what happens. But okay. I think someone's interested in how you do, they're saying ICM, but I think you always say panning, like how you're doing the panning images, and maybe a technique how to do that. Like if you were an elk or a bison or something, or a cheetah, how would you do that?
So ICM is intentional camera movement. Um, when I'm panning with wildlife, that is, I'm intentionally moving the camera, and I'm using a slow shutter speed to blur. So it's something that I've been playing with, experimenting with. It's fun. It gives you a kind of a different look. I think one of the reasons that I was drawn to that initially is it's kind of an abstract kind of image. If you like that kind of abstraction of painting, it can give you a similar look. One of the things that I like about it is like if I've got, as you mentioned, say a cheetah coming through the grass. If I take a frame of that cheetah, I've got a sharp cheetah, all of its fur, and then I've got all that grass is sharp too.
Yeah, yeah.
If I pan and blur that background, I got the cheetah sharp moving, with things are moving too, but that background becomes simplified because I've lost all of the detail or most of the detail because it's blurring out while my shutter's open.
Yeah. And that grass
So
in front too.
yeah, so I can get rid of a lot of clutter. I can simplify the image quite a bit using that technique because the background is going to blur out and become less sharp and less distracting in certain cases. So again, it's like it's a technique that I'm using to achieve that simplified look that I like often. There are times when that's not the case. I'm just doing it to create weird, interesting effects, abstract kind of.
Artsy fartsy, as you say.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that stuff. But it originally started for me because it was another way to simplify an otherwise cluttered scene. If I can just have the thing I want sharp and everything else blurry, that's a simplified scene.
It's
And I
another
like,
tool in the creative box.
yes, exactly. And that's comes to back to the way, it seems like an eternity ago we talked about that because I've been rambling a lot. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
But again, like in the field, I'm thinking simplified. Like that's my general mindset is how can I simplify this scene? And that's artistically, I know I want to simplify it. So now I go, okay,
interesting. Yeah.
Technically, how can I achieve what I want artistically?
That's the thing. I don't know how to do that. I've maybe done it once. Well, I don't know. I don't try enough.
Yeah, it requires a bunch of practice. And it's a very low percentage game anyways. And you have to know going in, I'm going to shoot 400 images. One of them might work.
Right.
But they're really hard to get right. I like that challenge too.
Yeah. We have 12 questions in the Q&A and still more to go. So maybe we should just speed round some of these real quick.
Yeah, let's speed round them. I'll do it quick as I can on them.
Did living in Wyoming encourage you to get into wildlife photography?
No.
Okay.
Well,
That's hard.
yeah, of course it did. My photography started because I wanted to take pictures of my kids.
Right.
And then the short version of that is I just needed to practice everything I was reading and learning about photography. And I took so many pictures of my dogs and my wife and stuff around the house. I needed to find more stuff to photograph. So like if I had lived in the city, I would have been out doing street photography.
True.
If I had lived at the ocean, I'd be doing surfer photography.
True,
etc. That's what I had access to practice on. So that's what sucked me in. Now, I've also lived here my whole life. I like fly fishing. I loved going out and exploring the creek beds and watching the wildlife and catching fish and being out there. So it all kind of came together, but no, it didn't start out of like, I want to be a wildlife photographer.
Well, I mean, when you're first starting, you have to practice everything anyway. Like you just want to anyway. Now we have 14 questions. Oh, goodness.
All right, keep them going. We'll go fast.
What are 3 things to keep in mind when searching for great gray owls?
Oh, God. keep in mind, you're hardly ever going to find them.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That was from Shauna Hart.
yeah. God, I get so much great gray owl stuff. I I have a hard time with it because they're just so hard to
They're hard.
find.
Yeah.
Um, and then the ones that you find like in Yellowstone or whatever that are roadside, it's really hard to photograph them well because there's so many other people around
Right.
that like I personally I can't move around the way I like to move around without disturbing them. You know, if there's 10 people, like when I'm alone, owls don't care. But when you've got 10 people and they're all
Yeah.
cruising around and trying to do their own thing, I can't get what I want.
Yeah.
I doubt anybody can get what they want out of it. Uh, so I personally, I tend to avoid those situations. They're just really difficult
Mm-hmm.
to get the type of photos that I want out of those. But I mean, you got to finding them is the hard part.
Yeah. You got to put in the work
And
to find them, and then hearing cues from squirrels. Is that one thing?
yeah, like if you watch my videos, the wildlife will often alert you to it. So the squirrels will bark at them. The birds, when the songbirds are in town, they'll mob them, and you
Mm-hmm.
can follow them to,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, they're harassing them. The ravens and the songbirds, they don't like the owls around, so they'll let you know. But yeah, it's a lot. It's paying attention to it.
Yeah.
The sounds in the forest,
Okay.
honestly, and a lot of it is training like your eye. I know I'm looking for something this tall, this
Right.
big
Like a
around
football
that's just
snap.
breaking up the pattern of the forest. So
Mm-hmm.
you kind of got to train your eye. Like I go to Africa and I see the guides over there, they can spot a lion. I'm a guide in the Tetons. I can find that lion, right? Ooh, I can see everything. And I'm like, what? How can you see that?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
because they're trained on that thing.
Yep.
And like I can find the owl in the woods and they'd be like, what?
Yep.
But it's what you're training your brain to see
Yep.
is what
Oh,
your brain's going to find. So it is it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to be a very low percentage game. Like, boy, if I find an owl 1 out of every 10 times I go out, great. I'll take it.
and that's good for people to know, since we're watching your videos and it feels like you are the great gray whisperer, but it's a lot of work, and 1 in 10 times or more. Yeah.
A lot of failures. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Carl asked you, Jackson Hole question, please. If you had to choose between one of the following lens combos to bring for the winter shooting, he's coming this winter out there. He wants to know A, A, B. So A, the 400-2.8 and the 100-400, or B, the 300-2.8 and the 100-400. Both would include the 1.4 teleconverter and the 2.0 teleconverter.
What system is he on? Does he say?
A1, Sony A1. You
A1.
cannot
So
pack both the 400-2.8 and the 300-2.8. So would he
I
do the
would
400-2.8 and the 100-400, or the 300-2.8 and 100-400 with the
402.8 and a 24-105.
Yeah, that's what I would say too. I think he needs a wide
You need a wide one
option.
because
Yeah.
here in the Tetons, you've got a lot of opportunities to put wildlife with the mountains. And at
Yeah.
100, there are times, depending on where you're at, you'll be able to do that. But
Right.
if your widest is 100, I think you're going to limit your ability to do the environmental stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I personally am running around like. I went to Alaska, I go to Africa. My primary lenses now every day out in the field here in the Tetons is my 400-2.8 and the Tamron 35-150.
Okay. Yeah.
So I
Do you
like,
always have your camera gear in the field?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm not sure what that means, but yeah, like I had to drive to Idaho Falls yesterday to get my car serviced, and I threw a camera in with the 28-400 on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the super most versatile thing I can have, but I always have like I don't have a camera with me, something amazing is going to happen, right?
Right. Right. And it
So
always does.
it always does. So I
I
carry a camera everywhere.
I looked for otters in my local place for like 3 years, and I went out in the middle of the day, no camera, just my phone, and an otter literally swam like inches from my feet.
Yeah,
Of
you
course.
got to have it with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Would you ever consider doing a video of reviewing other viewers' images? We could do that.
Yes and no.
I think it'd be fun if someone gave you an image to edit or give suggestions on edits. That could be fun.
So here's the thing. I have been asked to edit other people's photos and I won't do it.
Right. But
Because
if you saw a raw image and you just said like these three things, try it, and you didn't do it, and they had to do it.
yeah, and that'd be fine. But I look at editing as such an integral part of the process that
Yes.
I won't touch your image. Like
Right.
I'll suggest, even when you're on a workshop with me, I'll suggest like, Jen, you might think about putting the moose in the lower left corner here. Jen, you might think about switching to vertical image here. It looks great.
Or the first time, my first workshop, Jen, you might consider not cutting off the grand.
Well, that was a subtle hint, but you got the message.
Oh, goodness.
But I'm not going to go push the button for you and line it
Right,
up.
right,
And
right.
similarly, I'm not going to edit the photo because it's your photo. What do you want it to look like? Now, if you
Yeah.
tell me, like, Steve, got it, it's lacking a little punch here. What can I do? Then I can give you
Yeah.
some suggestions.
Well, I think even if you did private coaching with someone, and like I used to do that, still would like to do that. If I show you an image and you say, well, you could try these three things, or, maybe, I mean, I showed you some really bad images. So
You've all got them.
we've all got them. Okay. So, for someone who wants to start vlogging their photography outings, do you recommend GoPro mount or just hold your phone and shoot?
Just start with a GoPro or start with your phone because you've got one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if you happen to have a GoPro, it's smaller and lighter, and the hyper smooth makes the bouncing around
Right. Right. Right.
super easy to deal with because that can
Yep.
be super annoying. So if you have a GoPro, go for it. Otherwise, just use your phone and until you decide that it's something you want to do and invest,
Right.
another $400 on a GoPro or even more if you want. Like for me, my style, I'm not like super polished on Instagram, so GoPro has plenty good image quality.
Yep.
Some people really want like the high-end DSLR with the good lens and everything. That's not my style, but
Yeah.
start simple and see if you need, again, if you want it to look different and you need to get to a GoPro, go for it. But
Yeah.
start simple and see if you like doing it.
Someone asks, so full-time photography, or do you still work in engineering?
Full-time photography since 2017.
Yep. And do you get enough sleep with all these early photography days?
No.
What other owl species do you dream of photographing? I can talk.
Northern hawk owl, I think,
Yeah.
are exceptionally beautiful. Snowy owls would be great. I've never photographed a snowy, but I think if I had to pick one right now, it'd be a northern hawk owl.
Yeah. Do you use monitor calibration, and which brand and model?
I do, and it's a spider. I don't know.
Spider X something. I have it right here, but I don't want to get up.
Spider something, but I don't remember what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I have it. I can't reach it.
Yeah, we should all be calibrating our monitors, especially when we're starting to pay more attention to colors and our white balance.
Yes.
Yeah, most people are seeing it on their phones, which aren't calibrated. So it's kind of like, why do I need to calibrate this monitor when everybody's phones are making it be a little bit different? I see that argument, but I still want a consistent, accurate color.
But it's also, if someone asks for a print, you have to know if your color's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you sell your used camera gear?
It depends. I will do an email sometimes. Like,
Yep.
just I happen to have enough people that I can just say like, hey, I'm selling this.
So you have an email list, did you say?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Join my email list. All these people must be on my email list. I
Not
would
all of
think.
them, but
Come
if you're
on,
not
giddy
on
up.
Steve's email list, you can get on his website and get on that email list and the contact.
The Fred Miranda forums. A lot of people haven't heard of that, but it's like a photography forum, but they have a buy and sell section that's very active.
Okay.
That can be really well. I typically don't like eBay. Yeah.
Yeah. I know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it. Do you take people out for owls?
Not specifically, because the Park Service on the permitting for photography workshops, they make you stay a quarter mile from your vehicle.
Mhm.
So I can't do that under my permit.
Right, right.
Park Service has all kinds of rules.
Yep, right.
So we can go look, and I dissuade people honestly from coming on a workshop with me if all they want is a great gray owl, because
Right.
they're really hard to find even when we can go into the backcountry, and when we can't, when we're basically limited to roads and back roads, they're even harder to find. So
Yeah, I
that's
tried for a
not
week.
really an option here. Yeah. There are
Um,
people that do them up in Canada. Some of them I think are ethical. They'll walk you into the backcountry and find the owls. They have different permits or whatever they need up there. The
mhm.
National Park Service here does not allow that.
Yeah,
And then there are the unethical ones too. You really got to watch for that are baiting the owls, that are using live mice. They're setting up all the photos. It's not good for the owls. It's a bad idea. I disagree with that type of photography vehemently. Um, so if you're going to go on a great gray owl thing, just be careful about the ones that are promising you owls,
yeah,
and really look at the images and see if you want to be a part of baiting owls, that's up to you. I think that's a bad practice, but be aware of what you're going into before you go do it.
okay. That's good for people to know. We're there's a lot more. I don't know if we're gonna get to all of these.
All right,
Let's see.
I'll
I
go
know
quickly.
you also like the F1. Would you approach motorsports or aviation as the same as wildlife?
Very similar. I've never been to an F1 race, but I am a F1 hardcore fan. Lewis Hamilton, my main man.
Oh,
Go
here we
Lewis.
go.
But yeah, I think it is the same way. Like using motion blur, using high shutter speed to stop action, motion blur combination. Try different things. Um, I do photograph with my son. Have you seen aviation? We go plane spotting and we go to air shows. I love that. I do combination of fast shutter speed, stop in action, and slow shutter speed to show the motion that's happening can be super effective in a lot of ways as well. So
Yeah,
it's similar. We're reacting out there, just like in wildlife photography. I can't control what the airplanes are doing. I can't control what the light's doing. Uh, I have to adjust and adapt to what's being given to me there. And try and find those little special moments where something more
yeah,
interesting happened at that moment than it did right before and right after. So I'm still trying to look for those moments that are the most interesting that I can portray them.
yeah. Have you ever had to rescue wildlife?
Yes.
Really?
Oh, sort of. Yeah. This is not a short answer, but yes. So
Okay,
we'll go on to the next one.
okay.
Otherwise, it'd be a long story.
Do you prefer to go alone or shoot with someone?
I prefer alone most of the time.
And how can you get to Steve level coolness? Lydia Ripplinger wants to know.
Oh, Lydia, of course. Thanks a lot, Lydia, for the setup. Um, it's a flawed question because that assumes that there is some level of coolness there, which
Yeah.
doesn't actually exist. So, all I'll say is I've never been accused of being cool, so it's a flawed question.
And then have there's is a question about if you've been in a dangerous situation when you're out, but let's just because we talked about 399 a little bit, but let's talk about just quickly bear safety tips when you're out. Someone's asking that.
Yeah. Oof. I'm not an expert. I,
Right.
I'm I'm experienced, but I'm not an expert. So take what I say with a grain of salt and listen to the experts more than you listen to
Well, that
me.
one Burnaby podcast was really good on that.
It was really good.
If anyone's listening to Beyond the Lens with Richard Burnaby, he has oh man, Steve, I forget the guy's name, Tom, but it's how to not be mauled by a bear. It's a really
Yeah.
good episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll do a much better job of explaining that. My personal uh kind of I break the rules out there. I'm the first to admit it. The kind of the big rules are don't hike alone, do carry bear spray, do make the bears do make noise and make sure the bears are aware that you're there. I break the rule, don't hike alone all the time.
Yeah.
So the vast majority of incidents that happen, negative, bad incidents that happen, those two of those three things have gone wrong. It's usually not one single problem.
Yeah.
So the way I approach this, again, this works for me. This is not for everybody, but of those three things, I hike alone.
Yeah.
I've got two left. If I screw up either one of these, that's when the problems begin.
Yeah.
So I do hike alone all the time, which I shouldn't, but I am hyper aware of carrying bear spray, usually two of them. I've got it in the exact same spot every time I go out. It's on my left hip. I've practiced with this over and over. Get it out and
Yeah.
go quick.
Muscle
I
memory
can
again.
muscle memory. I know how to get it out and get that safety off like that. I'm ready to go. So I'm well practiced in that. And I am very diligent about making noise and avoiding like areas where I'm going to surprise a bear.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm walking through open places. If I'm not in an open place, I'm making a lot of noise. So I'm taking, I know one of those, I've already made one mistake. If I make another one, that's when problems happen. So for me personally, that's a risk I'm willing to take out there, but listen to the experts more than you listen to me.
Yeah. And that podcast also said dogs and bears are a really bad combination. So that was really interesting.
Yeah.
No dogs.
Yep. Don't bring your
No
dog,
dogs. Yeah.
which you can't do in a national park anyways.
Which you shouldn't. I do see people with their dogs out walking around, but
Yep.
turn into Ranger Jen sometimes. I don't. I want to. So let's do the speed round.
Okay.
Ready?
Go quick.
Okay. Okay. Quick. So what's in your camera bag besides your camera, lens, or body that you can't do without?
Oh, I wouldn't skip that one because I couldn't think of anything. I
Okay.
like simplify. So like if there's something that is living in my camera bag that I'm not using, it's
No,
out.
it's what can't you do without?
Oh, what can't I do without?
Yeah.
Oh,
Favorite thing in there. Well, right, but that one, we can say a lens, that one lens right now, that 24 to 105 you keep talking about.
well, no. It's I don't have it here. The Nikon makes a 28 to 400
Oh,
that's really
whoa.
slow, but super zoom. But it's like it's perfect for certain things.
Yeah.
Just because it's so versatile, I want to carry one camera and have the ability to do a lot of different things. So
Yeah.
I like that, but it's totally dispensable, honestly.
Yeah. The one thing I know you've been taking to Africa that's kind of cool is the jump rope.
Jump rope. That's
That's
right.
kind of cool. It's light.
Yeah.
Someone's asking you if you exercise other than the hikes. So that's why I thought of your jump rope.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm a exercise regularly. I try to do something every day. I do a lot of yoga. I lift weights occasionally.
Okay, that's enough.
No, all right, fair enough. But anyway,
Back to
yoga.
Lydia's question.
I run a little bit, but I do bring a jump rope with me when I'm traveling, just to get my heart rate up. So when I'm in Africa, out in the middle of nowhere, I can jump rope, get my heart rate up,
Yeah,
get a
it's
sweat
light.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
What's something in your camera bag that you bought that you never use? Maybe it's not in your bag. Maybe it's in your house. You never use.
The fancy rain covers, like
Yeah.
Think Tank, they make those awesome bomb-proof rain covers.
Yep.
I've never used one in the field before. I've had it for years.
Yep.
I always just find like, oh God, it's raining. I'll just throw a towel over my lens and start shooting. But I don't know why I brought it to Alaska knowing that we would just be deluged and I would need it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
of course it never rained that hard on me.
Yeah,
So
we didn't even get to that. I was going to try to get to that to Alaska, but we haven't even gotten to that.
yeah,
We
yeah,
are
that
running
rain cover,
out of
I've
time.
got it. I've literally never used it other than to put it on to test it out.
But I think you've mentioned to me to get the disposable ones on Amazon for like $7.99. It comes in a pack of 2.
Yeah,
I've
I
taken
carry
them.
those.
Yeah.
I've never thrown it on.
I've had them on in the Tetons, but I took both kinds to Alaska, didn't use either one. Didn't ever have rain. So, and I took never mind. I don't have to talk about me. It's okay. Speed round. Okay.
Yes.
Favorite snack while editing or driving around in the park?
Favorite snack is an easy one. It is the Power Crunch
I knew
bar.
you were gonna
You
say.
knew it. But I had a backup for you because I knew that was too predictable. I do love a good organic Fuji apple.
Oh, geez, okay. I'll do the Honey Crisp. Yeah.
Okay. I'm a
Yeah, I
Fuji.
know. You got our family onto the Power Crunch bars.
Oh, they're
The
great, aren't
chocolate
they?
mint. But they're
Mm.
not gluten free, unfortunately. But I still will sneak one every once in a while.
Yikes.
Yeah. All right. What's a wildlife experience that made you laugh?
Uh, Nothing specific, but baby animal antics
Yeah.
I always find entertaining.
Yeah. That one fox video you did is cute with all the babies running around. I think that's last year.
Yeah,
That's
that
really
was
cute.
last spring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wildlife experience that made you cry. Good tears or bad? Sad.
Uh, yeah, I'm not much of a crier. Um, but I'll admit I did cry when 399 died, but it was I don't think I found out the day that we found out she died, um, happened to be the 1 year anniversary to the day of my sweet Lula.
No. Oh no.
So she was like my soulmate,
Yes,
sweet
yes,
legal girl,
yes.
and we lost her exactly a year ago that day. So I was already kind of emotional that day,
Oh,
and then, so throw that on top of it, and I had some
had some tears.
emotions that day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Which is
but generally I'm not much of a crier,
which is
so I don't
totally
think.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And what wildlife photography experience filled your soul? I thought you were
Uh,
going to say you don't have one.
no, I don't have a specific one because I use wildlife photography in general as a way to kind of
Yes.
recharge.
Yes.
I'm kind of introvert in general, and I use alone time and quiet time in nature as a recharge, anyways, even before wildlife photography. But
Right.
through wildlife photography is honestly how I kind of fill it
Fill
up,
back up.
just
Yep.
in general,
Instead.
anyways. Yeah,
Yep. Me too.
yeah.
I know I seem like an extrovert. I'm not.
Dun, dun, dun.
Is there a someone wants to know if there is a Alaska video coming up?
I did not vlog one single moment in
Mhm.
Alaska.
Mhm.
My first trip, um, I really wanted to focus on the photography and the stills
Yeah.
and doing the best that I could, not knowing that if I'm ever going to be able to go back. And I would like to put together a workshop there. I'm going to try. I'm kind of trying, but um, no, I purposely did not vlog in Alaska. I shot
Okay.
a lot of video and I really concentrated on making sure I could do the best job I could with the stills. And vlogging compromises my ability to make the best possible
Right.
photos.
Yeah.
So I skipped that. However, if I have time to edit something together, I might put together a 5 minute just kind of montage of
Yeah.
video and photos with a little voiceover or something.
Yeah. That'd be great.
I'd love to do that. I just got to find the time, and editing video is really, really time consuming. So
Yep.
I make
Yep.
no guarantees.
So it's next things would be your future plans are the moose workshops are coming up,
Mhm.
and then Yellowstone, and then Africa
What
again.
I did, I had a cancellation. Sorry, to interrupt you.
Oh,
Apologize. I have one open spot on my one of my bull mooses. There was a cancellation. So if
what are the
somebody wants to
dates of that?
sneak
Which date?
into December, I don't remember. I think it's the 13th and 14th. If somebody wants to go on my website, it's available. So first person
Hmm.
to jump on there and grab it. You
Okay.
can join me for a 2 day bull moose,
I've done
hopefully in the
three of
snow.
those. That's good.
They're great.
Can you? That's from that.
I
Some of
see all
that
three of
week.
those. Yeah, all three
I
of
don't
those.
know if I was with you on all those, but
That
at
was your
least
trip.
two of those I was with you.
Yep.
So that's fun.
Nice.
That's fun. Yeah. So where can people find you, Steve?
SteveMathis.com.
Yep.
That's kind of the home base. You can get to my YouTube, my Instagram. You can
Your
check
email list.
workshops, email list. Oh yeah, email list. You can get to all that stuff there. So that's the easiest way.
And then people can buy prints there.
Yep, prints are
Okay. And
available. workshop signups.
And buy your book there.
Books available there as well.
That's
Yes.
good. And so the next thing we just need to watch for you on YouTube. New video coming out soon or in a little bit.
I hope so. I'm halfway done editing one. So yeah, I
This
think
has been really fun. I hope it wasn't too bad. You did a good job.
it was great. I feel bad for the audience. I could chat with you about photography for hours.
I know.
But yeah,
This is
thanks
my
to the
first
audience who hung
year
in there.
without doing, I'm not doing a workshop with you this year. I'm getting a little itch. I'm getting a little itch.
Oh, you're
It
doing
feels
great.
weird. It feels
No,
weird
it's
not
good.
doing one. I feel like you kind of kicked me out of the nest.
Yep. You're on your own, babe. Go
Time to
for
kick
it.
that baby bird out. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for joining me and for everything you've done for my photography and just being my friend. It's been great. It's been a great 4 years. So
I agree. Keep it up. You're doing
thank you.
amazing, and I'm excited to watch and see what you do next.
Oh, okay. We'll see. Hopefully.
Great.
I'm coming out in December, so hopefully some snow.
All right.
Okay, thanks so much, Steve. And thank you everybody for joining me. You can follow Wildlife Conversations on Instagram, and we have episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and this should be up on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple tomorrow. You can join my email list at my Instagram, Jen L. Ritchie, in the links. And on November 19th, Scott Stone and Jackie Stone and their bear team will be joining me. So is Cassie and I forget Josh. So I'll have 4 of them on. It's gonna be fun. You're gonna have to watch, Steve.
I'm gonna watch it. I love it. Those guys do amazing stuff up there in Hallow Bay. It's
yes.
incredible. So that'll be a
they're
super
doing
fun
amazing work with people, taking people in. So
yeah.
Well, thanks so much, everyone. I so appreciate you joining me. And thanks again, Steve. It was really fun.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.